So I get the pleasure of introducing our guest speaker today, Neil Hayner. It was after attending his first Centers for Spiritual Living summer camp that practitioner Neil became interested in science of mind. He went on to complete his initial coursework at our center before moving to Las Vegas and doing his practitioner studies at Greater Las Vegas CSL. Currently serving at CSL Beaumont, Neil is now planning to return to our center. Woohoo! Neil is a ministerial student at the Holmes Institute for Spiritual Leadership, San Diego campus, and believe that his life's work is to empower transformation through education. To this end, he teaches 4th grade, as well as Science of Mind courses. And on a personal note, I really well remember Neil as a student. He was probably my youngest student ever and was absolutely on fire with these teachings. And it is just outstandingly awesome that he is in ministerial school. So it's going to be a real treat for us all to hear him speak. So here's Neil. Give him a big welcome.
Good morning. Whoa. The voice of God. All right. Well, I want you to know it's an honor and a privilege to be here with you this morning, not only because I know that this is a community of consciousness and love, which it is, but that 20 years ago I walked through those doors, a pretty wounded, angry, defensive young man, and I started a journey of transformation that has taken me to this stage. So the reason I'm sharing that with you is because your support of this community matters. The only reason I was able to walk through those doors 20 years ago was because of the people who came before me and supported this community and supported this teaching. So I want you to know that your support of this community matters. Because right now, in the midst of you, there might be somebody who's feeling a little damaged, a little angry, a little defensive, and who 20 years from now might be standing up here. I believe passionately in the transformational capacity of our teaching because I've experienced myself. So I want you to know that your support matters. In some ways, I am a success story of this teaching and I'm a success story of this community. So it's fitting this morning that my talk this morning is Principles of Successful Living. It is tradition in our teaching to go back to the Science of Mind textbook written by our founder, Ernest Holmes, at the beginning of each year and look at the core principles, the core teachings that make our faith, our philosophy, and our way of life unique. So my talk this morning is about getting back to basics, and it's based on chapter 16 of the Science of Mind textbook. Now, if you have been here a while, and you haven't taken out your textbook in a while, I encourage you to go find it, dust it off, open it. I know, that's always the hard part, right? And read it. My challenge this year, one of my spiritual practices for this year, has been to spend some time in the textbook every day, to ground myself in those principles. So I challenge you to do that too. If you've been here for a while and you've never read a book by Ernest Holmes or read the textbook or have a copy, I bet they have one in the bookstore. Little plug. If you've been here for a while and you don't have a textbook or have never read it, I invite you to do so. And if you are really new to this teaching and you have no idea what I'm talking about, I encourage you to start with a book called This Thing Called You from Ernest Holmes, which is a little bit more friendly. So my topic this morning is about the principles of success. But before we get to those principles, we need to have a conversation and a common understanding of what it is, what do we mean when we say success? And there's this Zen story about a young novice monk who was walking by a river, and he realized that he wanted to get to the other side. Only the river was wide, it had rapids, and it was very deep. And so he stood there thinking, how am I going to get across this river? And he noticed that there was another monk, a senior monk, on the other side of the river. And he called across and he said, "Master, how do I get across the river?" And the Buddhist master thought for a minute and he said, "You're already there." Oh, good, you laughed. I wasn't sure you were going to get that. Our success is a lot like that, right? We think that if we can just get across the river, if we can just get that job, if we can just get that car, if we can just get that house, if we can just get that perfect mate, then our life will be a success. But the truth is, we're already standing on that side of the river. It's a matter of perspective. That success is already right where we are. Our job is to open up and align with that one power and that one presence which already is. Everything that we are seeking already is. And if we are seeking outside of ourselves for that success, we are seeking amiss. Because by seeking it outside of yourself, you're already acknowledging that it's not yours. You know, there's this common misunderstanding sometimes in our teaching when people first come here that it's about manifesting all the good things in your life. Sometimes people come here and they hear the message, you can get the car, you can get the job, you can get the house. And that's true. But if that's all that you get from this teaching, you're missing the depth. You're missing the depth of this teaching. Because that's not what it's about. Yes, we can attract and manifest those things in our lives, but our job, our invitation, is not just to attract the things in our lives. It's to make ourselves more attractive to the things that already are. It is our consciousness that attracts those things. So let's talk about this idea of success. What does Ernest Holmes have to say about this idea of success? On page 266 of the Science of Mind textbook, he says this: "Lessons on prosperity are sometimes dangerous because of the misunderstanding of the subject. Science of mind is not a get-rich-quick scheme, nor does it promise something for nothing. Rather, it promises that the one who will comply with its principles will be able to bring greater possibilities and happier conditions into their experience." Greater possibilities and happier experiences. That's what Ernest Holmes said that success was. It wasn't about getting more stuff. He also said this: "We do not teach that you can get everything that you want. If we could get everything that we wanted, it might be disastrous, for it is certain that some of us would want things that interfere with the well-being of someone else." There is this misunderstanding that it's all about manifesting our good. But it's also deeper than that. Here's another definition of success that Ernest Holmes gives. He says, "Success is the ability to influence our environment, its reaction to us, and situations and conditions that we contact." The ability to influence our environment, its reactions to us, and the situations and conditions of our lives. Notice he didn't say there never will be any conditions or situations in your life. He said success was the ability to influence those events through our consciousness. That's the first principle of successful living. Look at your definition of success. What does success mean to you? The second principle of successful living is to connect to ourself. The foundation of our teaching is that this idea that we are surrounded by an absolute intelligence. It is a creative intelligence. It is an intelligence of love. It is an intelligence of peace, and it responds to us. We call that the law. That is the part of the universe with which responds to our thinking, responds to our consciousness, responds to our thoughts. So the second principle of successful living is to connect with ourselves. Because Ernest Holmes said there is a power in the universe and you can use it. Ever heard that? Of course, the second part of that is there's a power in the universe and it uses me. But before that can happen, we have to be clear about what it is, what are the conditions of our lives that we wish to transform, that we wish to influence. We need to connect with that intention within ourselves, that divinity within ourselves. If God is all there is, then we are living and moving and having our being in an atmosphere of God that responds to us. But we have to be very clear about what it is that we want. In chapter 16, Ernest Holmes talks about that anybody who spends the majority of their life contemplating limitation will never be able to get past that limitation. You can't spend 80% of your life complaining about what's wrong with your life and then wonder why your life is not different. The author Richard Bach said this. He said, "If you argue for your limitations, they are yours." How much time do you spend arguing for your limitations instead of your possibilities? What if you spent more time, more energy, talking about the things that you can do instead of the things you can't do? So that takes us to this Ernest Holmes quote. On page 272, he said, "Our job is to be ready and willing to be guided into truth and liberty. If it becomes necessary to change our mode of living, then the law will point the way and we will follow." If you want to change your life, change what you're contemplating. Third principle of spiritual living, successful. This stuff that we call God is limitless possibility and probability. I know and I believe strongly that we live in a universe of infinite possibility. Ernest Holmes said that you have to open up an avenue through which the divine can operate. Or God can only do for you what God can do through you. We have to open up the way for that divine and splendid idea to live itself as us. Ernest Holmes said, there is no limit to the law. There's no limit to the law, but there appears to be a limit to our understanding of it. And as we learn how to cooperate with the principles, with the laws of the universe, our possibilities unfold. How do you learn about those principles? How do you learn about those laws of the universe? Take a class. I know that you have a foundations class coming up. And I want to encourage you, if you've never taken it, if you're really interested in your life changing, take that first step. Because I can speak from personal experience that it's the first step on the journey of transformation. So we have to provide a mental avenue through which the divine can operate. Don't limit the limitless. What if you truly believed that the universe was for you instead of against you? Newsflash, the will of God can only be good. That means that the universe that in which you live, move, and have your being is your ally, not your obstacle. The universe is here for you to support your growth, to support your unfoldments? What if everything in your life, whatever the appearance, was for your good, was for your growth? Everything that brought you here to this present moment was for your good. And you carried that awareness throughout your day and throughout your life. So it all starts with our own willingness to practice our principles, to see life from a different perspective. We have to be willing. If I had walked through those doors and not been willing to look at life in a different way, to maybe learn something that I didn't know before, if I had not been willing to take that first step, to take those classes with Anita and Allison, if I hadn't been willing to look at life in a different way, I wouldn't be standing up here today. It starts with your willingness. So the fourth principle is this: connect to your good. What does that mean? That means as you connect to your good in your life and you receive all the good that the universe has to offer, you expand your capacity to get more. As you are in gratitude and as life is flowing and happening through you instead of to you, you expand your ability for more and more life to flow in and through you. So set your intention. Be ready for life to show up and flow in and through and as you. That's how you know you're living a successful life. So how do you know if the good that you want, well, we talked about Holmes saying that you can't have everything that you want because it might keep somebody else's, step on somebody else's life, right? You can't have everything that you want. So how is it that I know the thing that I want to express more, the thing that I want isn't going to step on somebody else's life? Ernest Holmes gives us this, and this is one of the few times he actually talks about ethics. It's on page 270. He says, does the thing that I wish to do express more life, more happiness, more peace to myself, and at the same time harm no one? If it does, it is right. How do we know that what we are wanting in our life isn't going to interfere with the good of somebody else? Ernest Holmes also said this: as we connect to ourselves, to our limitless potential, and align ourselves with that which brings ourselves more life, more peace, then we are following the principles of a successful life. So, having said all that, are you ready this year to live a life of more possibility? Happier conditions in your life? Ready to live those principles that will bring you success? Not about getting stuff, but about living in alignment with your truth. Living in alignment with the one power, the one principle, that creative force that already knows how to give you everything that you need. Those are the principles of a successful life. So I know for you this year, a life of success, a life of greater possibility, a life where you can influence the conditions and situations in your life by being in alignment with love, by being in alignment with your highest truth, with your divine self. That is living the principles of a successful life. And so it is. So I'm going to invite my fellow practitioners and the board members who are here to join me in prayer this morning. And so what I know this morning, what I truly believe, what I feel at the very core of my being is that there is only one power, one presence. That power, that presence which we call God, goes by so many names. It is wisdom, it is grace, it is perfection, it is perfect action, it is divine right order. I know that that's power, that presence is filling this space right here this morning. That it is present as each one of us here this morning. I know, I affirm, I declare that there is only one power, and it is operating right here and right now. In this community, in this gathering, and in each person here this morning. And so I speak my word for each person here this morning, knowing that whatever is needed this morning, whether that be love, peace, wisdom, intelligence, right action, whatever is needed is present this morning. It is right where we are. And so I speak my word, knowing that the divine presence is filling the lives of each person within the sound of my voice. That divine presence of peace, that divine presence of right action, that divine presence of right order. And I know that as we take these steps into our new year, as we step into that awareness, that we carry within us a divine principle to influence the conditions of our lives, to open up to greater and greater possibilities for our lives. I know that those possibilities unfold in divine perfection, divine grace, divine ease. I speak my word and declare that this year is a year of vision. And with that vision, I see infinite possibilities and happier conditions for every single person and for this community. I am so deeply grateful for this community, for its presence in the world, for its consciousness in this city, for the ability for people to step into this community and have their lives transformed. I'm grateful for all of the members, all of the practitioners, for Reverend Jeffrey, for the loving presence that this community is. I'm grateful for all the love, all of the grace that this community represents. And I release my word into the law, knowing that law that responds to our word is always reflecting back to us everything that we put into it. And I declare that this morning is good, it is perfect, and in great gratitude I say, and so it is.